Hi everybody, we're going to go ahead and do our recorded class this evening. We are going to jump in with learning our last material for this week, which is the numbers. And as I sent you an email, this class will be pre-recorded. And after you go through it, there's also an activity for you to do at the end. So we are going to do the last new material, which is the numbers. And then you'll also need to make sure that you retake your quizzes. So if quiz 6 is due tonight, I'll grade that in quiz 5, and then you can retake that. You also have quiz 7 due this week, as well as some homework. Looking ahead, it's time to start thinking about preparing for the finals. So the best way to do that is to go back and review your quizzes, look at what you've got wrong, look at what you need to do still, and work on reviewing that information so that you can make sure that you are prepared for the final. Also, you can review the lectures as well as the presentations, but reviewing the quizzes and being able to go over exactly what you got wrong is really the best way to prepare for the final exam. So let's go ahead and start working on our last new material, which is the numbers. But before we're going to do that, actually, we're going to review capitalization, which is, this is the activity that you guys did last week. So let's look at this. Many of you got it right. Some people struggled. So we capitalize mother here because we're using mother instead of a name. We don't have a personal pronoun there. We don't have a possessive pronoun there. Mother has always been my number one fan. In this case, we're using number one in a conversational way. We're not actually saying, the number one. Then we would abbreviate that as the NO abbreviation with the period and then the number. She likes to blog about me, talk about me, post about me, etc. So the correct use of etc. there with the right punctuation. Although she is my mother, it starts to get old really fast. Recently, I was speaking with my therapist. Note here, my mother. We have the personal pronoun here, the possessive pronoun. It's not being used to replace a name, so we are not going to capitalize it. All right, recently, I was speaking with my therapist. Excuse me, doctor. Doctor is used to replace a name, so we are going to capitalize that. I asked, interrupted quote, but is this behavior normal? Interrupted quote does not need a capital B. My therapist just sighed and turned her head. When I looked behind her, I saw a book titled Learning to Cut Mom and Dad Some Slack. In this case, we've got major words that are capitalized, and it's in italics. I'm not so sure this relationship is going to work out. So take this, compare it with what you sent in, let me know how you did. All right, most of you guys seem to be doing well with the capitalization and abbreviations, but of course, if there are any questions, please feel free to let me know. Now we'll actually jump into our last new material, which is the numbers. All right, so the general rule for numbers is numbers can be written as figures, as words, or as a combination of both figures and words. Generally, we're going to spell out numbers from 1 to 10 and use figures for numbers 11 and over. This corresponds to your Morson's 170. A few situations, however, mean that you have to switch this up. We have to remain consistent. So that's the big thing with number use. Like if we're going to be using numerals for some things in a sentence, we typically need to use numerals for everything, at least every related thing. We're going to talk about that in just a second. So the 10 and under and 11 and up rule, they're really easy to remember, but they're not always going to play out in certain situations. So let's look at some of those situations now. All right, so related numbers. When you have numbers in a sentence that refer to similar items, you're going to use the same format for all the numbers. If some numbers are above 10 and other numbers are below 10, format all as numbers because we don't want to write out 14. Okay, so UPS delivered 14 packages in Middleton, 2 in Allenton, and 6 in Madison. In this case, you could normally write 2 and 6 in word form. But because you have 14 over here, and these are all related numbers, they're referring to similar things, we need to spell them all out as numbers. All right, when numbers in a sentence refer to unrelated items, however, follow the guideline as appropriate for each number. Each of the 3 campuses ordered 500 reams of paper, 150 boxes of staples, 4 cases of CDs, and 1 gross of pens. So 3 campuses. 3 is not in a number form because it's under 10. But notice how it's not a related number. 500, 150, 4, and 1, all of these refer to the supplies that the campus has ordered. But the campuses here, that's an unrelated number. So we don't need to put that in numeral form. Okay, here are some other examples of this. Just kind of as we've gone over, 10 and under, we have 3, and we have 4 bedroom. We're going to spell those out. 25 legal pads, 16 phone calls, over 11, we're going to use numerals. And a combination, just like before, related numbers, 16 plates, 20 mugs, and 2 pans. We have to use the numeral for 2 because these are related numbers. 2 books, 4 dolls, and 12 puzzles. 12 is above 11, but because it is in the series of related numbers, we have to use a numeral. All right, so millions and sentence beginnings, a few little different items here. Express numbers that are greater than a million as a figure-word combination, meaning you're using both a figure and words. But when the number is a whole number or a whole number with a simple decimal. But sometimes you have a number that's not a whole number or a number with a simple decimal. And in that case, we are going to have to spell out the numeral, or have to use the numeral, not try to spell it out. It's going to be lengthy and confusing if we try to spell it out. So remember, again, with numbers, we want to make sure we're consistent. All the numbers in the sentence have to be expressed in the same format. So Bectron Technology sold 3 million games and 3.5 million games. We have 3 as the numeral, million as the word. 3.5 as the numeral, million as the word. Okay, in this case, we are going to use a combination of figures and words. In this case, though, we have 2,500,000. Well, that could easily be expressed as a simple decimal, but 1,575,000 cannot. So in this case, we're going to use numerals for both of these larger numbers. All right, and then starting a sentence, pretty self-explanatory, but you don't use a number that's more than 2 words to start a sentence. In this case, you always spell out, though, that you have to spell out the beginning of the word, or the beginning of the sentence. So you don't use a 50 for 50, you spell it out. Never start a sentence with a numeral. If it's something like 125 that begins the sentence, rewrite the sentence if you're writing your own writing. Instead of saying 125 people attended, you can say the event was attended by 125 people. Yes, I know it's passive voice, but we need to make sure that we are not trying to start a sentence with a numeral that is too large. Okay, numbers and dates. So when we are expressing a complete date in writing, now I'm not talking about if you have to fill out a form or if you're writing a check, obviously we're going to use the day, month, or if you're trying to enter your day, month, and year so that they can pull up your account, obviously in that case you're going to use all numbers. But in this case, whenever you're doing actual formal writing, we're going to spell out the month. And when it's a complete date, we're going to use numerals for the day and for the year. No matter if we're doing the American version or the British version, the European version down here. May 6, 2007 is the American. 6 May 2007 is the European. In partial dates, when the month comes before the day, use words for the month, figures for the day. Members will meet on January 12th. January, spelled out, 12th, 12. That is numerals. Now we're going to use ordinal words or figures. That's the first, second, third, 15th. If we have the month that comes after the day or is omitted. So Mr. Bennett's vacation begins on the 1st of August, day before the month. Can you start on the 15th, day omitted? In this case, we're using the ordinals, which is the and types of numbers here. Numbers with time. So when you're expressing time on the hour, you can omit the colon and the 2 zeros before AM and PM. It can be expressed like this, or it can be expressed like this, just 8 AM, because this is on the hour. If there's no confusion, you can omit AM and PM also. So dinner will be served at 6. Well, we know that that's PM. We don't eat dinner for breakfast. Well, maybe some of us do, but the meeting is at 8. This is confusing. It could be 8 AM or it could be 8 PM. So you need to use either AM or PM. Use numerals before AM and PM, but use words before o'clock. So don't put the numeral 10 and then o'clock. Write 10 o'clock out, and don't write the word 10 for AM. Use the number. Ensure consistency though. So in this case, we could have written 8 a.m. like this, but we're not going to do that because we're going to be consistent again. We have 2:45 p.m. down here. Because of that, we're going to use the colon and the 2 zeros for 8 a.m. You always want to remain consistent with your time or with your numbers. Numbers and monies. Similarly, we want to remain consistent. So with sums of $1 or more, you're going to use numerals with the dollar sign. The candy is $1, but the drinks are $2.50. Down here it says we can eliminate the dollar amount with round dollar amounts. Eliminate the decimal with round dollar amounts. But if we have other amounts with cents in the same sentence, again we have to remain consistent. So here the candy is $1. That's correct. Here the candy is $1.00, but the drink is $2.50 because here we have the decimal point with the cents. We're going to use the decimal points here and just indicate it's no cents. For sums less than $1, we're going to use the numerals followed by the word cents. But again, in a series of amounts, it's in the same sentence, use a consistent format. So normally we would spell out, or we would use the numerals 89 and then spell out the word cents. In this case though, we have the pizza was $10, but the dipping sauce cost an extra 89 cents. Because we're expressing the pizza as a numerical dollar amount, we're going to do the same thing for the sauce in cents. Right. With percentages, decimals, and fractions, when we're going to talk about a percentage, we always want to use numerals, don't write it out, followed by the word percent, not the symbol. But again, when a percentage begins a sentence, write this number in words. So the best interest rate is available. The best interest rate available is 9%. So we're going to use a numeral and the word percent. And then here, 30% of my clients invest in international funds. 30 because it begins the sentence. Always express decimals as numbers. And if it's a fraction, you can mix numbers. They can either be a fraction or a decimal. Again, not words unless they apply first in the sentence or unless it's a simple, common, or standalone fraction. 1/2 of the membership is under 35. 2/3 of the suites have business stations. These are common, standalone, easy to understand fractions and are often used as an estimation, not an actual number, not a specific number either. Okay, so Morrison's rules for numbers, that's rules 170 to 204. And here's your activity for today, which you have quite a bit of time to complete. What I want you to do is select one of the Morrison's rules. Now, not one that we just went over. Select one of the other Morrison's rules about numbers. You need to email me to let me know what number what rule you've selected, and you need to do that during class time because that's during or before, because that's how I'm taking attendance for tonight. And I'm going to reply back to you and say either approved or rejected because I don't want any two students writing about the same rule. Okay? What I want you to do is write the rule and give a sample. There are great samples in Morrison's, but I want you to try to come up with your own. You can use one of Morrison's as well. I'm going to combine all of these and create a study sheet on numbers. And next class, when we do a brief overview on numbers, I'm going to use that study sheet to talk to everybody about numbers. So send me your rule before the end of class time. Put together your little, it doesn't have to be a slide, it can just be in a document, but put together your little cheat sheet with the rule number, with the rule written down, and then with the sample. And then send that to me. Make sure you do it by next class so that I can put together your study sheet. Also, don't forget to take quiz 7 to do your homework 14 and 15. 16 and 17, the numbers and then also the capitalization. And don't forget to finish quiz 6 by tonight. And then to review your quizzes to begin studying for the final. We'll breeze through numbers again to next class. We'll do a brief overview about that, and then we'll really get into doing some review. All right, guys. Of course, as always, I'm here to help. So if you need any help, please let me know. Please email me, and I hope you have a great day.